Today I'm going to be talking about making easy homemade baby food. A lot of people think that making your own baby food is too time consuming, too expensive, too weird, whatever. I actually think it's pretty easy and more cost effective in the long run. And I'm on my second child now, so I'm going to share some quick tips today about how to make homemade baby food. And if you're expecting baby, or you know someone who is, or someone who's just getting into those baby feeding stages, this video is going to be great information. Now, I want to talk about 4 things that all start with the letter T, so they're super easy to remember. Number 1 is time, and then temperature, texture, and taste. So those are kind of the 4 things that we can control when we're making baby food. Or even if you buy store-bought food, these are kind of things that you want to pay attention to as well. Essentially, if you start too young, your baby might not have that swallowing reflex of food that they can only take in liquids. And if you start too late, it might be hard for them to get used to the texture. So if you want to go with the norm, start with 6 months, and then it's easy to work from there. In regards to time of day, I'm nursing, whether you're doing breast milk or formula, whatever, you don't want to start introducing solids, especially the first time, right when your baby had just had their milk, and you don't want to do it when they're too hungry. So assuming your baby eats every 2 hours, that's what mine are, then you're going to want to go maybe an hour in between, right in the middle, or half an hour before or half an hour after. I mean, it's up to you, obviously, whatever is available in your time of day, but definitely want to make sure that they're not too hungry and getting frustrated, or that they're full and they're not going to want to eat because they're already full. I like to also introduce solids at like our normal meal time, so breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And I won't start like right off the bat 3 times a day. I might start first with breakfast, do that for a few days, and then breakfast and lunch. Then, eventually all 3 meals a day. And what you're going to be feeding them is actually just a tablespoon portion, so it's like super small at these meals. And eventually you're going to start building up more and more as you introduce more foods. What I've done with both children as well is started with the box cereals, just the plain ones at the baby starter age. That's really helpful, especially if it's your first child, to kind of get used to feeding them with a spoon and kind of getting into that routine. The second tip we want to talk about is temperature. That's another one that's really easy to control. And up until now, your baby has probably only been getting breast milk or formula, probably at body temp, maybe room temp. So when we're introducing solids, we want them to be also that same temperature because it's what they're used to. Start off with maybe a body temperature, then you can work your way down to room temp and maybe even cold temperatures like right out of the fridge. Eventually your babies will become children and adults, and they'll be eating foods of all temperatures, but you want to slowly ease them into that. So definitely start with something that is body temp or room temp. Now this is also important to know because let's say your baby doesn't like to eat whatever food you're feeding them at that temperature. Well, they might not like to eat, say, bananas at room temp, but they might love cold bananas. So if you're finding that your baby's fussy or not really eating too much, and you already know that they're hungry, that you're feeding at the correct time, then that's something you can kind of experiment with. And eventually you'll find that, they'll eat whatever because they'll be hungry and they'll like the foods. The third thing is texture. So this is another thing you can control, and obviously it's something that you're going to want to be building up. We're going to first start with the pureed kind of liquid stage and then go into bumpier, crunchier, still soft textures, introducing more kind of chunks until eventually your baby's children are going to be eating solid, hard food like what we eat as adults. Now, what I also say too is sometimes babies don't like pureed food. But that doesn't mean they don't like that food at all. It just might mean that they don't like that certain texture. Even though you're going to be pureeing it, or even if you buy the canned goods of baby food in the stores, it might be a texture thing where they don't like a certain food. That texture, they prefer it harder. So even if you try pureed peas, let's say, and they don't like pureed peas, it doesn't mean that they don't like peas, they just might not like peas at that texture. It's going to be a big guessing game right now, and a lot of it is going to be, trying and trying. But I would definitely say do not rule any foods out, unless of course it gives an allergic reaction, which you're going to want to avoid that. The fourth tip is taste, and this is definitely the hardest one to control because it's dependent on each baby, on each person. You'll know yourself that there are probably some foods that you don't like. For example, I don't like green beans, and no matter how they're cooked or if they're raw, I just don't like them. This might be the same thing happening with your baby. So if you've already tried all the other ones, you've tried different temperatures, you've tried different textures, and they still don't like something, it could just be that they don't like that food. That doesn't mean you should eliminate it completely. You should definitely try reintroducing that food maybe in 6 months, a year. It might be a few years before they start to like something. Another thing that's super important to mention about taste is that you don't want to be adding anything, especially not salt or sugar. If you're going to taste your baby's food and you're going to have your own taste buds and think, this isn't good, I need to make it sweeter, I need to make it saltier for it to taste good to you. But what you need to remember is babies have never had any of this food before. They don't know what it should taste like or shouldn't taste like, and they have super sensitive taste buds as is. So now I'm going to talk about how to make easy homemade baby food. You don't need any kind of special baby-specific kitchen gadgets. If you're used to making your own homemade food, you probably have a lot of this stuff. And in case you don't, I will put a link in my blog post for the stuff that I do use. So usually what I'll do to make it especially easy on me when I'm making baby food is that I'll just save some extra food that we have made. So for example, let's say for supper we're eating carrots or broccoli or whatever it is, I'll just make sure to boil it or cook it without any salt or sugar, and then I'll take a few aside. I actually use a hand blender to make all my baby food. You can use a regular blender. I just find that this one gets really small purees. So once my food is boiled and cooled down a bit, I just take a slotted spoon and I put it in my hand blender container. Any kind of container, or if you use a regular blender, will work. You're just going to get a much better puree this way. So first what I do is I put all the fruits or veggies, whatever it is that I'm making, in there, and then I use the blender, and I'm going to slowly add the water if I need to make it a bit thinner. There are obviously some foods that you don't have to cook this way. For example, a lot of fruits. Bananas, you can just mash them up really good, or even you can use the hand blender and smush them up that way. Same thing for a lot of berries. I find apples you do have to boil so they're not as hard, but it's pretty much like applesauce. So I just grab some of the water and portion it in until it makes kind of a nice thin consistency. I really like these containers because I can see how much I've made. I know that if I have at least 150 milliliters, which is 10 tablespoons, then I'm good for a few days. If I have any extras, I like to put them in either these little containers. They're actually just breast milk containers, and I label them. Or an easier method is to just portion out, if you can't use a whole container, portion out a couple spoonfuls into an ice cube tray. So now I have the perfect amount for a couple of days in the fridge for new food, and then I have 3 little meals left over for another time. I hope this video about easy homemade baby food helped you out. If you have any questions or comments or need some more information, you can always check out the blog post at madnessmethod.com or comment on this video and I'll try and get you some more information. Thanks for watching.